is the Zerkler representing Ents and Finland. It's everyone's champion. It's Serral. So, let me know. If you are Serral, are you looking at this going, okay, I can just go gas pool open standard? Are you worried? I know Goblin is a little bit of a cannon rusher from time to time, and this isn't a bad map for it by any means.
Well, you know, I kind of look at it as like, if you think that you're the better player or the better team, you want to go with something that's going to be, you know, very straightforward, and you're not going to be looking to gain a weird edge, I think, in any sort of greedy type manner. Like, I can see this just being a straight up cover 2 man type play where Serral's going to say, I'm not looking to jump on anything. I want to play a style that's going to give me the opportunity to react to what you're going to do. And if I do give up a little bit of that economy by going for this early pool, that's not necessarily the biggest deal, because I know that I have the mechanics and the skill otherwise, that if I'm not getting cheesed out of a hatch first build, I should probably be able to get ahead anyway, just over the next couple of minutes past this point. So the early lings are going to be nice. He's going to try to potentially force a response with this. I don't think there's too much that you can do here, but watching this opener from Serral just kind of strikes me as a, you're not going to be able to cheese me. And since he wasn't going for a cheese that we know originally, like, there is some value to that, but getting the cyber core up before the Nexus, like, you can't be as greedy versus a build like this either. So Goblin's kind of forced to play, in my mind, the most standard or middle of the road that he can do as well, just so that Serral can't actually do anything with this inefficient opener, you could say. But he does start a Roach Warren, so maybe this is bait. Maybe he wants him to think that he's just playing overly defensive and that he's actually going to just try to power up and be greedy after this, and he just, you know, rains Roach or biles down on him.
Yeah, and I like Serral's decision in this early game as the Ling's not going to be able to make any leeway here, because Goblin's the kind of player who will go gate and then forge anyway. Now, with a Cybercore finished, gas for Goblin is starting to build up. We're going to see a Stargate go down pretty shortly, I'd be almost certain. There we go, as it does drop. Serral's starting speed, only getting 3-4 Roaches. Do you think this is just a defensive Roach decision, or is Serral stopping on 16 drones and he's just going to go for it?
I really don't see it, if I'm being honest. Like, he's adding a couple of Lings behind it, but I do feel like the biggest strength of a strategy like this is that with the faster build time and the cheaper mineral cost, you know, the ability to get that shield battery out without it delaying your Void Ray when the Stargate does finish is going to be a little bit less of an issue. And I think it's, if anything, the number one thing that this patch would have done is make it very hard to kill Protoss players with Roaches at the beginning of the game. That being said, you know, just like a Banshee in TVZ, if you manage to get 30 Zerglings underneath that Void Ray, it's not going to save all of your probes. So he does need to make sure that he keeps the wall close together. But going for Phoenix first, well, this could come back to bite him. Yeah, he's completely unaware.
I think Goblin's trying to sort of play around the mind games about himself. You know, everyone expects him to go for that Void Ray, and he's not going to do it. If Phoenix, super bad, Super Back comes out, but Ling's already in here, mate. This is looking pretty bad for Goblin. The Stalker will fall down. I may have spoken a bit too soon.
Well, there we got to see the man be sheeped by the shear in that case, or sheared by the sheep, excuse me, in that situation, per your original analogy. Swift game 1 victory for Serral. And just looks like Goblin was probably scouting him, was like, oh, okay, yeah, he did this thing because I cannon rush. So he's probably not going to do anything past this. And then the Phoenix just comes out way too late to actually get a read on it because of how fast that attack hit. If he had gone straight for like the Chrono Boosted Blind Void Ray, I would have said like, okay, this guy's got, you know, it's like 700 IQ. And that's what confuses me, because wasn't the whole point of part of the buff to the Void Ray that it could help deal with like the early overlords more effectively, and that you wouldn't have to always go for the Phoenix? But that's it's a bit unfortunate. I guess there's also like the Team Roddy bait, right? Like if you're a Protoss,
you gotta make Phoenix
Roddy, you kind of have to build Phoenix. I'm pretty sure it's in their contracts.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Required to build at least 14 Phoenix on any tournament stream per month.
Yeah, it is. And if they don't, then Roddy won't give him the little the ends of the bread that he eats in his castle. Now, Goblin, he needs to get out of his own head in this. I know, you know, he is just giving Serral that false sense of security. Don't worry, guys. I'm still definitely right. Goblin's going to win the series, maybe. But here on Ice and Chrome now, we are moving into Serral's map pick. And I mean, the possibility is, Nate, that we could be in for a very, very quick series, and I could end up with egg on my face.
Well, you know what? I will tell you this. You wouldn't be the first new caster to do that. It's okay. I think we all get excited about our favorite players. It was quite the same when Fear Dragon started and tried to pump up every single NA player going up against Koreans, and we're like, I'm sorry, but I don't. You know, Silky's good, but is he that good? Is he gonna beat Tasia here? Do you think so? No. Is he though? And it's okay. It's okay to dream, because that means you haven't lost the light in your heart yet, like the rest of us have. In the top
Serral.
right, we have the blue Zerg. He is Serral.
His opponent, representing everyone's favorite commentator from the Netherlands, he represents Team Rotti, the Croatian Protoss player in the red, is Goblin. And he's in trouble now. He is in trouble. So, of course, we did see Serral go for that 12 pull here. No gases or anything that's going to be settling immediately. If Goblin can get his wall up quick enough here on Ice and Chrome, he might be in a decent spot. But he needs to identify what is going on. Now, the positive for him is he is probe scouting. He's going to be able to go in and get that information here. What do you think is the best reaction right now for Goblin? How does he deal with this?
Well, it's really hard, isn't it? Because with that pool, you have multiple options for the way that you can take it. You know, Serral kind of has that. He's kind of got that like almost that RPO vibe where he can put it in. He can continue to invest into this pool, or he can just pull out right at the last second, take that hatchery, play mega greedy, and Goblin could end up biting on it, going around the outside and being like, oh, well, there's actually nothing here that's coming. I've overinvested into defense. But that's the tricky thing about, you know, going up against somebody that is this good, is that Serral is going to have in his mind probably already thought of how he would play this series out, every single map that he could get, because he doesn't expect this to turn into a, oh yeah, this guy's gonna go for, you know, gate next to super fast, you know, defense, and then do whatever. Like, this is a cheeser. This is a guy that isn't gonna play as well into that late game, but at the same time also probably has a lot of nerves going up against former world champion in the group stage here. So am I surprised to see a little bit of the fumbling over here? Not necessarily, but at the end of the day, these are the types of games that you have to play on main streams with lots of people watching in order to be able to keep cool, calm, and collected the next time. But he's getting both of his gateways chipped away at. Needs to start the second adept before the cybernetic score gets eliminated. Excuse me, the cybernetic score is what's getting chipped away at, and losing that would suck. It would suck a lot.
Goblin doing a good job. He did lose, what, how many probes? Couple, just the 2. But now he has an adept out. He is pretty safe. Worker count does favor Goblin, so he's not dead, of course. Now behind this, Serral just adding on queens. He's going to drone, probably take his third at a relatively standard time of 3.5 minutes. Goblin adding on stalkers. He knows he has to be very, very careful here, because if there was to be a Baneling Nest or a Roach War and follow-up, he'd be in a lot of trouble. So he's going to keep pumping out those units at the expense of attack. And it's just difficult for Goblin, you know. He doesn't want to shade out in case there's 20 lings waiting.
Exactly. He's put the fear. He's put the fear in him, and he's made him scared to go outside. Because what happened in the last game is he gets this setup, he sees those early lings, he thinks, okay, it won't be too much more of a commitment behind that. He only got the shield battery, and then the Biles killed the one zealot and 40 lings spilled in. So your number one fear is that that's what's going to happen again. You kind of want to have the adepts at home to block just in case. And at the same time, with that Stargate coming in, as you very smartly projected, we were going to see a lot of it in this series from Goblin. Is he going to go straight to Phoenix this time? His adepts did go across the map, so is he going to feel more comfortable going for the Phoenix this game? Or maybe he wants to play Void Rays anyway, learn his lesson, right? I shouldn't build things that aren't the laser boys.
It's a good lesson to learn. I do think, we're going to see Phoenixes. Goblin seems to have come into this with a game plan, maybe thinking Serral would have overly prepared for Void Ray openings and things like that, which can be a little bit vulnerable to things like Lings and Banes, because although they're very good, they kill them quite slowly. +1 air weapon, so we're going to see a second Stargate coming down from Goblin probably as soon as possible, and he's really committing to this now, Nate.
This is what I like to see, though. This is what I like to see. If you're good at something and you're the underdog, you might as well put every single chip onto the one thing that you're good at and try to force it, because mixing it up for the sake of not being predictable isn't going to work when your opponent is just leagues ahead of you. So it's better to take the sharpened sword and try to drive it deep into the heart of the swarm this game if he can get there. Serral is giving him the opportunity without going for that early attack. So we will hopefully get to see a bit of that mid game from Goblin. And I guess my big question is how heavily he will lean on the Phoenix before he goes into something else. Is the Void Ray composition for him something that he looks at like 3+ bases based on your knowledge of Goblin's gameplay? Because I haven't really been able to see too much of this yet.
Yeah, he seems to. Goblin's very much the kind of player that likes to use the Stargate to secure itself a third base and then go into carriers, get a fleet beacon, try to go to a hyper late game composition. We don't see.
That used to be so good.
Yeah, and then we've seen a couple of Protosses trying it in this tournament. Some of the ones that haven't been doing as well, like King Cobra, have been trying to do some builds like this. It's very difficult because if you don't find damage, there's actually going to get up to 80, 90 drones, and they're just going to roll over you with Viper and Festa, possibly Hydra. So Goblin needs to keep his Phoenix. It's very, very active, pick off Overlords, stop the scouting here as Serral, and he needs to get his third. It's already like 6 minutes and no third base, which of course is Protoss wants it between like 4:30 and 5.
Start building the Void Rays. Start building the Void Rays. Okay.
Scout, Leon, scout.
The Nidus network is on the way, ladies and gentlemen. He's got that low brand frequency to reach the far range inside Goblin's base. You know what also terrifies me is that he doesn't have pylons all over his main. So there's actually quite a large dark spot in that main base.
Did he see it? Well, it would have been really, really close. No, he hasn't seen it. He's now getting very close, but he still hasn't been able to identify that this is what's going on here. So Goblin
is it already too late? Oh, he's going outside. He's not going into the main. He's going to go outside the natural. That might give him a chance here.
Yeah,
it'll give him the biggest chance, I think.
He's going to keep his Phoenixes at the other side of the map for now, but Serral has loaded up that Nidus Worm and looking to just absolutely rain down terror here on Goblin's natural and possibly third base. Goblin's still keeping his Phoenixes at the other side. I'm just not so sure about that. 2 Void Rays on the way though, Nate. And Void Rays are pretty good units. Oh yeah, man.
I want to see them. I want to see them. I want to see all of the Void Rays. I want to see them turn on those mega microwave beams, set them to 700 watts, and cook this Zerg army like it's chicken nuggets at 2 in the morning. Let's see it. Let's get it done. The Ravagers are coming up. I mean, the Phoenix have tons of energy. If you could get the...
Look how many queens out.
But the problem is queens, right? Like he's got 8 queens. He's got 8 queens over here. I don't know.
I mean, the Ravager count dwindling pretty quickly. Goblin doing a good job. Meanwhile, behind this, Goblin has 8 shield factories in total. 1 for every queen that's come to play at the party. He's doing a good job of taking down all of these Ravagers. The queens, of course, have sort of all your friends are dead syndrome, whereas if you can kill all of the major DPS around them, the ground army can sort of kill them. And Goblin's doing a real good job finding Sim City here, getting a lot of units. He's now getting up more and more Void Rays. I don't know, Nate.
Goblin's been playing this very, very patiently. The next Nidus is coming up. The Lings are going to try to flood the army on the outside using the lift ups with the Phoenix to limit the queen DPS. The batteries in that third base are largely taken out. He could try to overcharge one of the ones in the natural. I don't know if he still has that off cooldown, but as he continues to pick this off, like at the end of the day, if he could clean this up without losing the third base and his workers, he's not in a terrible position. The fleet beacon is coming in to give him the extra upgrades following this, and then possibly those carriers, as you were talking about. Oh, the shield battery using it on the Nexus, trying to save it just a little bit, but
it's gonna go down. Big loss there for Goblin. Serral really needed that damage, of course, because Serral is only on 3 bases. But Goblin's going to be able to retake it pretty quickly. And Goblin's tech is still very strong. He's alive. He didn't lose many Void Rays really at all. He only lost 1. He really didn't lose any Phoenixes, Nate. So Goblin's counter-attacking prowess here is going to be pretty impressive. He's moving across to try and grab some of these queens. Right now, somewhere Rotterdam is just smiling. Do you know what I'd like to see? A Dark Shrine from Goblin pretty soon.
A Dark Shrine. Well, he doesn't have a Twilight Council, so that's going to be, I was going to say that's a tall ask to make right now. I think that the things that are actually making me pretty nervous too is like that creep spread that he has outside the third. He's going to need to build an Oracle for detection because he also does not have a robotics facility. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm getting the impression now that Serral is likely to try to kill him again reasonably soon with a lot of Hydralisks, which are not bad versus Void Rays at all.
No, Goblin is going for that Flux Fanes upgrade to make his Void Rays those Ferrari Voids. We see Serral getting +1 as well, and I think I agree, Nate. I think we're going to see here Serral go for a big +1 Hydra timing and try and bust down Goblin's front. But Goblin's doing a great job of finding damage. He's now killed in this game, in total, 15 queens, Nate. 15.
Yeah. did commit a lot of resources there. It is not something that you get that you're used to seeing this many Void Rays sharking around the map. And you know, I do like it to a degree, especially with the Hydralisks being the option on the field for Serral, that these guys can kind of bounce around that terrain. They can play the outside in those dead space zones, and they're not really going to be worried about dealing with the spore crawlers as much. And if you could even just fight only a handful of those Hydras without all the queen support, there's a lot of potential with the pickups. But Lings do block probes from trying to get over towards that third base. Third base still not done yet again for Goblin, so his economy has really been hamstringed by this. And Serral getting his fourth base up, maybe not as fast as a Zerg would typically want it to, but he's getting the infestation pit. And there's your carriers you were talking about, Grant. So we're seeing him go straight to him.
I'm a little bit worried. I feel
carriers
like
ain't what they used to be.
No,
I don't know. I haven't been a fan of them in a long time.
We can see Serral generally being quite aggressive, and carriers, like, you have to have 6 really to be able to fight against a mass Hydra force, and even then, minimum. Twilight Council finally goes down for Goblin, as does that third Stargate. Serral is sitting relatively back on his haunches for now, though. Goblin is getting +2, so he's going to have those very high-hitting glass cannon carriers in the sky shortly. First one has pot forward coming down for Goblin. Goblin's tech is okay, maybe a little bit late. He's doing a good job of keeping Serral back for now, and this is what Goblin needs. If he could sit on 6 gases by enough time to get to that big carrier number, I don't know. I think there's still possibility here.
Yeah, he's got a snowbally army, and he has, just looking at the way he peels off a couple of those weak Phoenix, even in this little harass fight, only losing one of them, it seemed, in that total engagement. Like, if he can get the ball rolling, you know, fast enough, you know, with inertia and momentum and all of that would be quite nice. But I'm trying to remember about the way that the last series went that I was talking about with Serral, where he had a series against DNS where he was able to get that Golden Armada out, but the Viper's ability to pick the army apart with the insane burst damage that Corruptors have makes it a lot easier to pick those units off, because the Void Rays are a unit that kind of needs the fights to last longer. That's when they generate the most value, when they can stand and fight. They don't have burst damage like the Zerg army, so you're getting into these awkward positions where you need to have a tremendous amount of support units. And what's made me nervous in this game, 3 carriers at a time is awesome in like 2016, but he doesn't have Archons to put underneath. He's just not getting the Templar Archive, so Storm would be very far away. And if it is literally only carriers that are the primary backbone of your army, then I'm hella nervous against, because these Hydralisks are going to rip them to pieces.
There's not even charge zealots, you know, give that buffer. Void Rays, you can see, they're so squishy. And we have Infestors as well to fire off those big fungal growths, and we've all seen what Infestors can do to a Skytoss army. We all lived through 2013, 2014, the reign of Broodlord Infestor. Double Spire coming for Serral, but the carrier count is getting there. We're now at 5, 6, very close to popping. It's going to be close here. Goblin really, really needs to hold on for just another 30 seconds.
I'm going to be honest with you. If he A moves into this and the carriers are forced to engage, we could see the first ever effective usage of the Infestor Fart Cloud. He can put that over the Hydras. There's nothing else to kill them. He has Storm on the way. He just got a few Templar, but I think if Serral knew what we knew, like 50% damage reduction, if it's only carriers and Void Rays, would actually be tremendous.
Goblin gonna lose this third base. Gonna be popped down very, very quickly. Super battery coming out, but it's just not enough. The DPS from these Hydras is just absolutely supreme here. And
I'm surprised.
There we go. There's that Fart Cloud, Nate.
That's right, and that gives the 50% damage reduction from air units for those Hydras under the ground. And you know, I think Rotterdam actually brought this up yesterday because people were memeing and joking about it. But if you are versus a pure Skytoss army that doesn't have the storm support, yeah, of course you just storm over the fart clouds. But if it is only air units, then you're actually going to see some pretty effective and efficient use of Microbial Shroud. And there you go, gets into another fight. There's the big Shroud over the army. Those Hydras hardly taking any damage. And really, the Zealots are about the only thing that's going to get it done. But maybe he's got enough carriers to do it, Grant.
Yeah, the army of Serral being forced onto the retreat here. Big fungal to cover that retreat, but carriers haven't gone down. Only one has died in total this game. So we're now looking at 6 carriers. They have +2. The Void Ray still very, very healthy. And the Hydra number, we're only looking at 12 Hydras right now. And sure, with Infestor support, they do a lot of damage. That means there's no fart cloud. And if Hydras fall down under the damage of +2 carriers. Goblin pushing forward. His supply healthy. He's up in army supply. I don't know, Nate. This is starting to look good. I'm feeling confident for a second.
He's got a lot of spore crawlers repositioning over here, but these are, I mean, it's 6 carriers, right? That's the magic number we were talking about, except this time they're backed up by the Void Ray gang, and those guys are going to help punch down these spore crawlers. Not even going to need those tectonic destabilizers, but the corruptors come out. This is where the corruptors shine, that burst damage against the carriers. I don't know if there's actually enough for them to chase them down. Okay, it does seem like there are. So half the carriers are picked off, and that's always the fear that comes up for me, because the corruptor is just, it has 2 armor by default, so the carrier in general just doesn't do a lot of damage against it, but that burst damage against the massive units really helps to punish the Protoss if they don't pull away immediately when the corruptors show up.
Yeah, Goblin's adding on +3 more carriers. He really needs a 4th base. In terms of resources lost, Goblin's actually been, I believe, more efficient. Yeah, he has. Serral throwing away 18,000 to Goblin's only about 14.5. So very efficient. Storm comes down here on top of all of these corruptors, offering a lot of DPS here, but these tanky boys just shrugging it off and moving back.
But that's what I was talking about with corruptors, right? You know, back when Graviton Catapult was a suffocating upgrade for PvZ, corruptors got these huge acceleration and damage point buffs, so their attacks come out instantly, and that makes it really easy to just run up to the carrier, right click, snipe it, pull back. All those Void Rays, they need to shoot over time. A Void Ray doesn't do 20 damage on contact with an armored unit. It'll do 200 damage after 5 seconds, but you have to be there fighting for 5 seconds with that prismatic alignment turned on to really get the maximum value out of it. And the thing that makes me nervous about it in this situation is, yes, he's still able to build the carriers, but the problem is going to become that he can't afford to throw down tons of shield batteries, photon cannons. If I were Goblin, if I could give Goblin 1,500 minerals out of nowhere, I'd be like, put a big blockade up in front of that 4th base, or block off the north choke above the 3rd. But he doesn't have resources to throw away at anything other than trying to improve his primary core army, which means that eventually we're going to have Lings, Ultralisks. I don't know if he's really invested much in Banelings, pushing on those High Templar while the carriers and Void Rays are trying to get support against the corruptors. And that's what really makes me nervous, because we're going to see the Vipers come into play as well. And then you just, you know, you're going to have your big expensive air units getting yoinked if those High Templar aren't exposing themselves up front.
Yeah, and I mean, Goblin's trying his best. He's adding on all the upgrades he can. He's trying to set up some static defense, but Nate, you were spot on. Goblin just cannot afford shield batteries and producing all of his carriers. And now we see these big base scout come in. The first yoink comes out.
Yoink.
Goodbye. Oh my God. That carrier absolutely vanishing. And I talked a lot of trash before this game to support my boy Goblin, but it's starting to look a little bit rough here. He's down 60 supply. His army is still very strong, but he doesn't have much on the ground. And I mean, Ultralisks can stand and dance inside those storms. Okay, they're happy as Larry. Void Rays do quite a lot of damage to them here. They will start to fall down. The Corruptors in the air, though. There's just so many, and they're out of storm range.
It's that burst. It's that burst. He can dance around. They're so fast. They're so responsive without having like a field of cannons underneath and tons of Archon.